Awesome. Live indeed, and recording is in progress.
Let's do it.
I love how informative Zoom has become over the past couple of months or whatever. It's just really making sure we all know all the time that we're being
yeah, exactly what's going on.
Yep. Watch out. Somebody might record you. I see people are pouring into our Zoom room here for a little tea with Lee. Hi, everybody. And it looks like we are live on Facebook. Hi, everybody on Facebook. We're just going to let people pour on in and settle in. As you're on your way into our Zoom room, please jump into the chat. And when you do, you got to change that little drop down above the message box to say panelists and attendees. And then after that, you can let us know where you're tuning in from. We would love that. Vicky, aloha from Shell Beach. Vicky, thank you, Vicky. Vicky sent some tea. Remember last week, Lee, we were talking about Linsong Old Tree and how not everybody likes it because it's got that old tree taste?
Yeah.
But you can't get it anymore? Well, Vicky was kind enough to mail me some.
She did? Wow.
Because she didn't like it, but now I have it.
I love that tea.
I still like it a lot.
We can't get it, huh?
Can't get it. It is gone.
Dang it.
Yeah. I love that tea as well. Okay, folks. So we've got people pouring in. As you're pouring into the Zoom room, when you jump in chat, please make sure to change that little drop down to say panelists and attendees. Then let us know where you're tuning in from. You're all welcome to talk amongst yourselves in there while we get our tea with Lee going here. And as the numbers level out a bit, we'll get started in just a minute. Oops, I think I overboiled my tea. Not the tea, the water.
Don't overboil that tea.
Yeah.
Hey, I have somebody who wants a cup of tea right here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Got a thirsty baby?
I got a thirsty baby.
Hi, baby. Hi. How you doing over there, Harper?
How you doing? Can you say hi to Ben and everybody around the world? What? Very curious these days. And really loves buttons. So if I let her too close to the computer, she will turn it off. Didn't she turn off the meeting last week, huh? Isn't she getting big?
She's getting huge.
She is. She's saying, ma, ma, ma.
Oh, is that what she's saying?
Yeah, but she says it to me.
Oh, I see. Just telepathic.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, let's get started over here. So, folks,
hey.
We are going to get started here. And those of you who are on Zoom, we are going to do some Q&A in a little bit. So please do feel free to jump in and use the Q&A button in Zoom to ask your questions. We're not going to be pulling them out of the chat. We're going to be looking for them in the Q&A section of Zoom here. If you're over on Facebook, then you're welcome to add your questions as comments. And also one of our team members will have put a comment, pinned a comment to the top with the Zoom link in case you'd like to come over and join us on Zoom. That's totally fine. But in the meantime, you'll be able to ask your questions via comments, and somebody from our team will pull those over and bring them over a little later and ask them on your behalf over in Facebook. What was that, Harper?
Did you hear? I think she said Ling Song Old Trees.
That's what I thought she said too.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
She said it in Chinese. That's why it was a little shorter.
She's really good at Chinese these days.
I'll bet you are. So folks, yeah, we're gonna kick things off here in just a minute with a little bit of a process of getting present. Lee will lead us in a little something to get present and be here in this space together. If you're here in Zoom, please do feel free to jump into the chat and set that little drop down above the message box, you say panelists and attendees, not just panelists, so that you all can see each other. And go ahead and let us know what kind of tea you're drinking today. And Mr. Holden, what kind of tea are you drinking today?
I am drinking a 7572, and
very nice.
I drank that before, and you know, all the puers have a number, and Ben, I think you shared with the group what those numbers meant back in the day, but it's been a little while since you've talked about the numbers.
That's true.
I even forget. I know it's the factory, the year, the leaf grade, but I forget which order is which.
Those are the items, and you did it in the exact opposite order. No, actually, no, you mix it up. So the first two numbers, 7, 5 in this case, are the year. The year is what year this particular flavor profile was first created. So in this case, 1975. This, in fact, 7572 is a pretty famous formulation. It's one of the first ripened puer formulations, and people have been imitating it ever since. And the third number after the year 75, in this case, the third number, so 7572, the 7 after the 5 is the leaf grade. And so those are different sizes of leaf, basically. And then the 2 at the very end is the factory number. And so all these numbers basically standardized when communists took over and China became a communist country. And so the government basically owned all of the factories and all the plantations and everything else, and started standardizing it. So number 2 is the factory that's known as Munghai factory. It's in Munghai area. So it's still quite a busy factory today. In fact, many of our teas came through there. Many of the teas at Hidden Peak Tea House are actually made by the people who first invented and discovered this process of ripening tea in the 70s. They're at Munghai factory. One of the guys and one of the core engineers in that team is the tea maker of Unblended Brick and Trinity and some of the other teas that we drink. So very long and prestigious career in the puer industry, that guy. So 7572 is a famous formula. And so you'll find a lot of 7572s out there from various manufacturers, you know, going back forever, because once basically everybody's trying to kind of recreate that flavor profile with this year's harvest and whatever they have available. So it's a neat aspect of what they do for teas. It's kind of like certain Meritage blends in wine, where they'll try to recreate that same flavor profile, even though every year the grapes taste different from the same location and suppliers because of growing conditions and so forth. So fascinating aspect of tea. I'm drinking what's known as a semi-wild, I don't know exactly what that means, Shifeng Dragonwell. My guess is that they planted a bunch of Dragonwell up on this mountain, and then it got away and started spawning volunteer plants in other parts of the mountain outside of their main fields. And so that's why they call it semi-wild. It's my guess, but I don't know. This is a Gaiwan I'm drinking out of today. Gaiwans are great. They're actually, it's a cup. So it's a lidded cup is what Gaiwan means in Chinese, apparently. And you can really get a lot of aroma out of the lid of a Gaiwan after you brew the tea. And then you can drink out of it too. So traditionally people would drink out of it. They'd sort of hold it by the saucer and set the lid to have a little bit of filtering space, and then just kind of let the lid filter the leaves. I never really do that because it seems like a pain in the butt. So I just use a cup. I'm excited about this tea. I love this time of year. The fresh teas that come in, and they just taste amazing. Misty Lewis says, Ben's going to only be semi-wild today. We'll see about that, Misty.
Well, it is only Thursday. You know, on Friday, Saturday, you're fully wild.
That's correct. That's correct. Warming into it. Ronnie's asking, where are you finding the tea you're talking about? This tea, the semi-wild Qi Fang Dragonwell tea, came from verdant tea. Verdant. It's always I feel like I say it funny, but verdant tea is a great place for fresh teas. When the greens and the oolongs come in fresh, that's where I tend to get them. I haven't really had pu'er from there that I particularly like, but the greens and oolongs are delightful. So, oh, Zach just put a link in there. Good job, Zach. So with all that tea talk underway here, let's take a moment. Lee, if you wouldn't mind, now's a chance to lead us in a little bit of a getting present thing. And
Well, sounds fantastic.
Convene as a group before we jump into Q&A.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Ben. Well, welcome everybody. Another tea session that we get to do together. And I always like to start with a little intention setting, a little gratitude practice. And, you know, Qigong is a practice of embodiment, and so is tea drinking. So, you know, we can take this opportunity, and especially when we do it as a group and have a group energy field, it becomes powerful. So let's bring our teacups to our heart centers and just tune in to a couple things about your morning, about your week that you're grateful for. And let's just make a little small, slow circle right in front of our heart center. And this is where Qi and Qigong practice meet. And take a deep breath with a long exhale and just letting anything go that gets in the way of you feeling your heart expand with gratitude. Just letting go. And then really bringing to your mind and your consciousness a couple of things you're grateful for. Might even bring a little smile to your face. And then we'll take a sip and cheers and toast to gratitude and creating more moments of gratitude like we're doing right now, all together.
To gratitude. Beautiful. That's pretty tasty tea. Well, thanks, Lee. That's
well, thank you, Ben.
Always delightful. And I do love to do that. Folks, we are going to dive into some Q&A next. So I'm glad you all made it today. If you've got questions about Qigong, about tea, about all the stuff we do around here, please jump on into the Q&A box here in Zoom and start loading them in there. And we'll get that going. Cool. Elaine from Elaine Hungria says, hello, I'm going to have an effort test exam. I'm not sure what an effort test exam is, but that sounds interesting. And I must wear a mask. Therefore, it is hard to breathe. What kind of breathing is the best for this exam? I wonder if an effort is a...
like almost like a stress test, like maybe you're on a treadmill or something like that.
That's my guess. Yeah, a stress test of some kind, physical.
You know, what I'd recommend is to do some work with the Qigong breathing practices beforehand, a couple of days beforehand. Did she say when it was? Did she say today or something like that? No. Yeah, so sometime beforehand, even if it's the morning of, what's really good is to do some pressure points. These are the first couple of lung meridians, points on the lung meridian. If you follow your collarbone over it, it dips into that shoulder pocket. And when you come down, those are the first couple of lung points. And these are great points. These are great points for the immune system and for the respiratory system. And you could just press with your fingers, make little circles, and then knock on those points. Do the same thing on the other side. You press, circle, 30 seconds to a minute, and then do the same with the knocking. You can also tap in the center of the chest. Those tend to open up the lungs and make the lungs a little stronger. If you have some time beforehand, we can do the Qigong for better breathing. We have a program where we filmed in Nicene Marks right here in the Redwood Forest. Do some of that. We also have the workshop where we dive in a little bit deeper to the techniques on the lungs and the respiratory system. You know, working with the breath is so crucial, so important. So these are two really great programs for the breath to strengthen the lungs, but really it strengthens the whole entire energy system. And as they say in Qigong, the lungs are the commanders of the Qi. So the lungs are the first place where energy enters the body. And so it's great for all of us to be working with lung and lung energy, the breath as a foundational practice.
Great. So so basically get prepared by getting things open and practicing this better breathing. And then when you're there, do you have any particular recommendation for, I mean, I think what's going to happen if it's a stress test is you're just going to be trying to get as much oxygen as you can.
Yeah, they're gonna work you out. You know, one technique is to breathe in and out of the nose as long as possible while you're exercising, but don't do that if that is your first time trying it, because you'll get out of breath really fast. Mm-hmm. So once you're at the test, just do the best you can and go through the practice so your results are as clear as possible. I would say it's all about the preparation, you know, doing a little exercise. If you have a few days beforehand or a week, what you want to do is do a little walking, even on a hill, and only breathe in and out through the nose while you're exercising. That'll strengthen your lungs even more. And so that's again something to do on the front end, but I wouldn't recommend it if let's say you're doing it this afternoon to try something new. Just do the test as they're describing it, and it'll give you the best diagnostics that way.
Excellent. Here's one from Ramona, and I think a lot of people have questions about this. Please discuss when Qigong becomes medical Qigong and how and when both are used.
Great question. So really there's three styles of Qigong. We have a martial style. These are where the martial artists practicing Qigong for strength and power. The martial artists became very healthy. These martial artists were extremely robust and had really powerful energy and strong immune systems. You know, at the same time, people were using Qigong as a way to what they called prevent disease and prolong life. And this was really the foundation of medical Qigong as it became part of Chinese medicine. You know, they described 5 branches of Chinese medicine, which Qigong was one of them. And it was the branch that you did on yourself. The other branches, like acupuncture, somebody's doing on you, unless you have your own needles. You know, massage therapy, herbal medicine, often, you know, getting herbs prescribed by an herbalist, and nutrition, diet. And so Qigong comes from the inside out. So it's considered very high level medicine. There's 2 branches of medical Qigong. Medical Qigong is the exercises that you can do. And so here in our system in Holden Qigong, we're teaching mainly medical Qigong that you do through exercise, through meditation and breath work, through your own energy cultivation to prevent disease, prolong life, to activate the healing power within you. The other kind of medical Qigong is something that you can do on somebody else, much like an acupuncturist giving a treatment. So you come into the medical Qigong doctor, you lie on a table or you sit in a chair, and the doctor will send energy to you to open up your pathways. And that's the other way medical Qigong is practiced. It's like Reiki or energy healing, those kinds of things. And what we teach in our system is a technique called Buddha Palm. And Buddha Palm, first and foremost, teaches you how to connect, to plug into a higher energy source than just what's going on within you, and guide and direct that energy to yourself to really elevate your energy. And the second stage of that Buddha Palm is how to practice on each other, how to practice on a patient. So if you're an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, a chiropractor, a physical therapist, you really learn how to charge up your hands and guide and direct healing energy to somebody else. And that's all part of our Buddha Palm practice. If you're curious about it, we do have a Buddha Palm online course, mainly for the first part that I described, for your own self-cultivation. But if you're interested in practicing with partners, we usually do that as a live workshop. And hopefully, you know, sometime soon we can all get together and do some of these kinds of trainings.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of these days or years or centuries, we're going to get back together and do some medical Qigong retreat. But we did create the Buddha Palm course in the meantime, this past year, just because that's the piece that you can do yourself, is to go through all those systems and then use those lit up hands to heal yourself and work on your own energy centers. But that's the same practice. So if, that will then allow you to then emit energy from the hands with other people, and also get very sensitive to what's going on in other people's bodies energetically with your hands as well.
Yeah, and in that Buddha Palm, we do some bonus work where I teach some self protection. So creating a field of protection, so you're not taking on the stress of the world around you, or at work and whatnot, just to really create that strong protective energy field. So we have some really cool bonuses in there that people find very useful as they go about their daily living.
Indeed. Excellent. Thank you. There's actually 2 or 3 people asking, I think, about long COVID.
Huh? What does that mean?
Actually, it's the same person twice.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Lillian. Getting a little enthusiastic there. But long COVID, well, you've heard of long COVID. It's when you end up with COVID, but then
Yeah.
out. Yeah. Okay, cool. I was pretty sure you knew it.
Present for a long time.
Correct.
Yeah. So couple of recommendations. We want to activate your body's healing energy. We all have this intelligent energy system. And, when we have pathogenic Qi that comes in and influences our energy, pathogenic Qi really can be anything that makes us not feel well. And included in pathogenic Qi is stress or negative energy from somebody else. Somebody's angry at you. That can be considered this toxic energy in our system. So pathogenic Qi, we want to purge it out. We want to clear it. One of the best practices for clearing pathogenic Qi is healing sounds. And that was a practice in medical Qigong used to clear and to cleanse and then to replenish and restore your body's natural healing energy. So I would first recommend doing healing sounds a few times a day, especially if your body hasn't got over the pathogen. So 2 to 3 times a day, do the healing sounds practice, emphasizing the lungs and the lung sound. We also have the healing sound or the sound healing workshop. We take it a little bit deeper into that workshop. I would recommend that as well. And then just mainly focusing in on simple flows, nice and easy, like a 5-element flow, not too long necessarily, 15, 20 minutes of flows and moving meditation to get energy circulating in your body. And those 2 things can really help restore and replenish your body's energy and bring you back to balance. And not only that, but keep your energy at a very high level.
Oh, I thought I was muted and unmuted myself, but instead I muted myself. I've done that before. Yeah, it really is all about the energy at a high level, isn't it?
It is. Yep.
There's a couple of interesting questions about grief. So let's talk about that a little bit. I know it's a big deal. Somebody's asking if you have any thoughts on using Qigong to honor and process grief. And this is kind of an interesting phenomenon where they start tapping or massaging around the sternum or doing some of the things that we do, and they fall into crying mode, and then they can't keep practicing. Do you have any ideas on how to use Qigong to work with grief?
Yeah, I mean, that's showing too that, if you start doing some practice, you're doing some pressure points and some tapping and some Qigong movements, and then those emotions come up, that's part of the healing. That's your body's already starting the healing process. And I would say just go with that, because, crying is a form of Qigong. It's a way in which your body naturally releases energy that's there inside of you. We don't want to suppress that. We don't want to keep pushing it down and just trying to be okay even when we're feeling some strong emotions. So that is great. Then I would say recommend, cry, go through the process and come back to it. Start in on it again. Probably going to get a few more minutes. If you cry again, it might be a few days of a process, But soon what you're going to find is you can go through a whole workout, a whole practice without the emotions coming up in a very strong way. Now, grief is normal. It's natural. We all feel the sense of loss, whether it's, somebody passes away, a relationship ends, we move on, we change locations, we lose our jobs. We can feel a sense of loss. Remember that life is always in this process of change. And if we look at energy teaches us that things are always changing, that this moment it arises and then it passes on and gives birth to a new moment. And one thing that's constant about energy and this life is that the constant is change, which is paradoxical because there's always flowing energy. One thing that stays more constant is you and who you are. So the thing to do would be go through the emotions, but then really tune back into the moment. Come back to right where you are in this moment. So practices of meditation and mindfulness can really bring you in touch with the moment. I often teach a where am I meditation. So I just ask that as an inquiry. Where am I? I answer the question, I'm here. And then I just pay attention to where I am. I feel the chair at my back. I notice the things in the room. I notice the breathing coming in and out through my nose. And I just root my attentiveness in the present moment. That's very grounding. And then I also can tune in to the fact that an emotion is energy, and energy, like anything else, is going to be in a process of change. And this grief is going to pass and move through and give rise to a new emotion. And so by coming into the moment, feeling the emotion and letting it move through me, then new emotions will come and arise. And so feeling grief isn't a bad thing. It's just that we don't want to get stuck in the grief, and we want to be emotionally present as well. What I would recommend, in Chinese medicine, they look at grief and where it arises from, what organ system it mainly comes from. That's the lungs. And so I would work on a couple of our programs, Qigong for better breathing and Qigong for depression. Those two I would cycle through, maybe be on our subscription, do some other classes, and just keep consistent with your Qigong practice. It'll move through you and you'll come into a place where you're in contact with life. We want our emotions to be present with what we're going through and not stuck, in the distant past where those emotions from the past keep revisiting us in a big, powerful way. We want to be more present. And those practices can really help us stay emotionally present as well as mentally present.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just can't, well, the only way to short circuit it is to shove it down, and then it's going to just keep coming up for a long time. So I think what you said earlier is like, you don't want to bypass it. You want to actually let it express. And the sooner you can do that, the better. The more rapidly you'll get through it in terms of weeks, months, days, years, as opposed to having it kind of always be there and linger on and never quite get resolved. And that's certainly been my experience with grief. So yeah, I appreciate all of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a challenging one.
Yeah, especially in these times, really this whole COVID thing has been really taxing our lungs, both as a pathogen, but also, lungs as grief and sadness and loss, but it's also loneliness and feeling of despair, so it's really challenging our lung energy, in many different ways. So I think this is a time to breathe and practice and get into our energy system and our internal work. It's deep work, and it's very powerful as we go through it.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so speaking of the better breathing practice, Julie is asking, what are the best movements for my mom who's in her early 80s? And can you recommend an easy breathing routine?
I would say for parents in their 80s, that Qigong for better breathing is a fantastic choice. I also like the seated Qigong set. I mean, we have a routine where you can do it in a chair. You know, especially for, you know, seniors that aren't used to exercising, that might be a good choice. I also like the better balance, the Qigong for better balance. And this is these kind of are a great combination. And as we age, we want to do a variety of exercises to keep our bodies healthy. You know, Qigong is anti-aging. We're really only as old as our energy systems. And as our energy systems become stagnant with lack of movement, that's really when the physical body ages more rapidly. So movement is anti-aging, and a variety of movement especially is good for all of us, but especially for seniors. And you know, more and more studies continue to come out about the breath. And if we are flexible in our respiratory system, we live longer. You know, when our lungs and our lung capacity shrinks, it is one of the indications of rapid aging. So all of us should be really working on our respiratory system and stretching the mechanics of the breath. If we don't breathe deep, our lungs atrophy, they shrink. And it's because the muscles in the chest, the ribs, and the diaphragm aren't working. So when we're breathing deep and we're doing all those exercises where we're stretching and spinal cord breathing, opening all this, we can actually breathe a lot deeper, and the lungs don't atrophy as quickly, and we take in more oxygen per breath. We become more efficient. And that is one of the, you know, in Qigong, they talk about this all the time for thousands of years, one of the anti-aging recipes. And if you look at research, lung capacity is directly related to aging and the aging process, and biological age. So if you're 80 years old, but you have really strong lungs, your biological age might be 60. You know, I mean, yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure I know what you mean. I think you
There's
said
your
it.
biological age and what your body represents. I forget the term now.
Yeah. Well, I understood what you meant. I think you said it just right.
How about this? Keep breathing. That's a great one.
Keep breathing. Yep. So a couple of those links hit the chat as far as the seated workout, and the better breathing is already in the chat. So if you need to go find those items, you're welcome to jump in there. Nej is asking, for knocking on the door of life, should we aim specifically for the Mingmen point? And if there's restrictions in the shoulders and the whole forearm doesn't hit flush on the back, should we relax and swing, or should we kind of aim and, I guess, force it a little bit?
Great question. Very specific question. Knocking on the door of life is a great movement. I often teach it at the very beginning of class as a warm up, as an activation. I love it just even middle of the day if you've been sitting for any extended period of time, just a little Qi boost.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're knocking, there's a variety of different ways to do this practice. When you're doing knocking on the door of life, usually it's the forearm that's knocking across that point specifically, and the arms are wrapping around the lower abdomen. And so the fist usually lands somewhere in the lower back kidney area, and the forearm is knocking across the door of life. The door of life is an acupressure point. It's called Ming Men, and directly translated means life gate. It's basically directly behind your navel or right under the second lumbar spine. There's another variation where you use the fist to knock on that point. The back of the hand knocks on that point, and the front hand knocks just below the navel on a point called the Sea of Qi. And in the subscription, I often cycle through different variations of knocking on the door of life, but there's not necessarily a right or a wrong way to do it. Think of these exercises as guiding and directing Qi to where you want it to go. And there's different ways to guide and direct the Qi. And there's another variation of knocking on the door of life where we do it in a wide stance and we shift the weight. Now that's going to guide the Qi a little bit lower in the body through the hips and the legs as well as the lower back. And if we're doing it feet shoulder width, then we're not shifting the weight. We're staying stationary between the legs and getting the spine to rotate and creating a little more mobility in our spines. So depending on what we're doing, depending on the day, we might do it in a variety of different ways. And in the subscription, I often will mix it up just as a way to cross-train different Qigong exercises to give us that variety in our own bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And another comment Nedge had was maybe even due to arm length, as far as not actually having the whole forearm hit flush on the back. I had a student whose arms were shaped in such a way that it was just impossible for him to hit that particular point. Just
Yep.
the way the upper arm and the forearm were of certain lengths, that just the relationship between them, we checked it out and it's just like, yeah, that's physically impossible.
That's funny. Yeah, everybody's in a different body. That's a good reminder. And all the points around that area are activated. We were often working on what is called the Qi belt. And this is energy pathway sort of around the belly, the lower ribs, just below the ribs and the lower back. And that Qi belt has a lot of really great energetic benefits. And so just stimulating those points, moving the spine is a wonderful way to keep your body healthy and the energy flowing.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. Knocking on the door of life, says Carolyn, is the best Qigong move ever. It never fails to revitalize me. Yeah,
that's great.
it's true.
I had somebody I taught Qigong to maybe 15 years ago, and I ran into them and they said, oh, hey, I still do that banging on the gates of life. So whatever you call it, it's still good for you.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Here's a slightly more esoteric question from Bridget. What is the relationship between meridians and the etheric body?
That's interesting. That's an interesting question, because we're really talking about now two different systems and terms, and what the way in which we describe energy, right? So all traditions have descriptions of energy, whether it's Ayurvedic tradition in India, we have the Chinese medicine tradition, we have energy masters from the West, we have the Kabbalists, from the Western mystery schools, often all describing energy. Now there's energy present, so we say the etheric body, maybe the energy that's around you. And now in Chinese medicine, this is called Wei Qi. It's your energy field. And quite simply, anything that has physical form also has an energy form, or an energy formless field around it. So we look at the earth, the formless energy is the gravitational pull of the earth. We don't see it, but it's there. We're all on the earth because of gravity, right? And the earth has an atmosphere, and the sun has its physical form, and then it's rays that radiates out. And so we all have a physical form and an energy that can be measured, right? They can measure your energy, your unique energy field that's emanating from your heart. They can measure it like a fingerprint, unique to you, about 12 feet away from your body. This is interesting because science is now confirming what these energy masters have been talking about for thousands of years, that we're much more than just being skin encapsulated. We have a field of energy that is unique to us, that emanates from us and is in the space around our bodies. And so whether we call it Wei Qi, the etheric energy, it's there. And the key thing is to get in touch with it and experience it for yourself, so that we get out of the linguistics and the words, so that we get more into the experience of it. So just because we name it something doesn't mean we know it. So we want to feel and experience it for ourselves, whether you're doing Qigong or meditation or energy healing. Really get to know that energy in an experiential level, and then it becomes wisdom. It becomes part of your inner experience. So they relate, to answer the question, they relate, but they're just terms that are describing energy from different cultures and different vantage points.
That's a great explanation, and such an interesting topic to me, but I agree. It's all about the experience of it.
Yeah.
Here's another one. So you've been starting to talk a little bit about the five animals in the context of a forthcoming course we'll be doing a little later this year on the 5 animal frolics, which is a traditional Qigong form. And so Stella is asking, I've been wondering about the 5 animals linked to the 5 elements. Would you please speak to this with a brief description on how the animals relate to the elements? Thank you.
Yeah, and that's
Of
quite,
the
yeah.
course, basically.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, quite simply put, each animal goes to a different element. And here's the confusing thing. This animal system is a little bit different than some of the things that we've taught before. And
Right.
so as we go through the course, we'll connect the animals to each of the elements. We'll also talk about different systems of Qigong and how they see the animals connected to the elements. But again, we need to remember that these practices and these theories, like 5 elements, 5 animal frolics, are like a map that describes the territory. And then in the workshop, what we do is we actually go on the journey. So again, we will get to experience it, and we take it out of theory and knowledge into experience and wisdom. And that way we really become practical, useful, and enlivening in and through our own mind-body systems. And so we'll definitely dive into the theory. We'll connect the animals to the elements and get into it that way. Just yesterday in the subscription, we learned a deer exercise, a 5 animal frolic. We learned a little bit of the deer frolics, and the deer is connected to the kidneys. In Chinese medicine, the deer as herbs, deer antler as herbs connects to the kidneys as well. And so you can see how these things might interrelate, and you'll also see, we'll explore where different traditions branch off, and we'll see how that is, how to put it together in our own practice. And so, we'll go through it in terms of animals, movements, meridians, and the whole thing, because we'll have 3 weekends to dive into this ancient practice of the 5 animal frolic.
Yeah, it's such an interesting practice, a couple thousand years old, and really kind of, as you say, ancient. But briefly, what are the animals and the elements?
Oh, okay. Well, the deer I just said is the kidneys. Then we got the bear, the spleen. We have
That's earth.
Yep, the spleen and the earth. We have the ape as the fire, the bird as the metal and the lung, and the tiger as the liver, which is going to be confusing because we often relate the tiger to the lungs as well. So
right.
Different systems, as I said, will have different animals related to different elements, and we'll explain why these particular movements go to those organ systems.
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that one. I've always enjoyed that.
And this 5 animal frolics is originated by, it goes way back to shamanistic culture. So the shamans would take different animals and relate it to different energies and invoke, spiritual qualities. As Chinese medicine evolved from shamanistic practice to energetic science and medicine, the energy became repeatable, that we didn't have to go ask the shaman to invoke an energy. We learned how to do and invoke energies for ourselves through movement into particular meridians. This is the brilliant part of this practice, is that we all become our own best medicine doctor and energy healer. We become our own shaman. The shaman being the mystic that's able to contact the invisible life force energy and work with it in tangible and repeatable ways for the benefit of our own mind-body system. And then this very famous Chinese medical doctor, Hua Tou, he came up with a systematized way of doing animal movements for medical Qigong benefit.
Well, that explains a lot.
We got into it.
Oh, I love it. I think it's great. It's something we'll be looking forward to for sure. And I'm glad we're doing it. It's been a while. We've been talking about doing it one of these days, and now one of these days is almost upon us.
Yes.
Lee is asking about how to incorporate iron shirt practices to the Qigong and yoga that they're already doing. It's really powerful, makes me feel so good. Well said. What are some ways I can incorporate it? Should I add it a part at a time to the video subscription class, set aside days just for iron shirt, or some of each?
All of those are great. All of those work really well. So I would say you could take part of Iron Shirt and add it, to the end of a practice. So for example, you've just finished a video class subscription. You've done, your hour class. And at the end of the class, you could do, standing and embracing the tree for 5 or 10 minutes and do some packing breathing for 5 or 10 minutes. And that might be a nice way to really solidify your practice in a little deeper way. I would have some days of the week where you just focus in on the Iron Shirt, maybe a combination of the Iron Shirt. Since you've gone through the course, at the end, we put it all together with an Iron Shirt 1, an Iron Shirt 2, and Iron Shirt 3. Iron Shirt 1 focuses on structure and the organs. Iron Shirt 2 focuses on the tendons and ligaments. And Iron Shirt 3 focused on the bones and the joints. Not only that, these are really deeper energy systems that have other application and implication. And so you could really have, let's say 2 days a week where you just dive into the full Iron Shirt practice. I would think that might be a great way to train it and go deeper with the practice. But all work, and it's great to add it in and sprinkle it into your Qigong and flowing practice. And it is also nice just to dive into it as a full practice in and of itself.
Yeah, it sure is. It's a fascinating practice. Yeah, it's always good to keep the nutrition and variety flowing with the subscription. If you're coming to the weekly classes 3 times a week or doing those as replays. And so what I always say is kind of what you said, which is if you want to focus in on something specific, do the 3 classes a week from the subscription to get that variety and that energetic nutrition, and then kind of double down on whatever it may be. So in this case, for the other 3 days a week or 4 days a week, depending on how much you practice. And the other, in this case, Iron Shirt, but other people may use that time to focus in on a healing series program for headaches or high blood pressure or upper back and neck, or kind of cycle through those as one issue resolves and the next issue becomes top of mind. So that's usually how I propose people get the most out of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Great answer, Ben.
So
I'm looking at one about mindset and preventative health from Saki. The idea that when you have a family history such as cancer, the fear factor and the thought process for the unknown can be very powerful, even when there's no physical manifestation. And that is so true. And we want to work with our own minds in positive ways, right? And this is the thing in Western medicine. We know placebo works, but we don't work with it. We know that mindset is so powerful, and that if we, as medical practitioners, we start talking about, family history this and, family history that, and, we start putting ourselves in a mind state of fear, and where we put attention, energy starts to follow. So when we start to feel and sense our own fears bubbling to the surface, our minds starting to think about what might happen in a negative way, I want you to take that opportunity as the time to do mental work. I want you to take that time to change and transform those thoughts into something else. And much in the same way, a gardener is going to compost the weeds and take that compost and use it for fertile soil to grow the garden that they want. So those negative thoughts, they're going to arise, and there's no problem with it. Just start to transform it. And that's the process of Qigong, of working with energy, because thoughts are energy. And how do we do that? So one simple way is just to put your attention on what it is you want. So I want you to visualize, I want you to see, I want you to think about how healthy you're going to be as you go through life. I want you to visualize yourself at 90 years old doing Qigong practice and feeling vibrant and healthy and going for walks on the beach and living the life that you want. Put a lot more energy into that space. As soon as those thoughts come up, because they often come up without you thinking you want to think about it, meaning they just bubble up to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to just put your attention, when you have that be a reminder, I'm going to also take those thoughts, I'm going to put them into something else. I'm going to take that energy and put it into what I want to create for myself, and just do that mental work, because that's what you can do in the moment. You can't do anything in the moment. You can do your Qigong, you can do your mental work, Otherwise you're just in the unknown, and the unknown we tend to infuse the unknown with negative thoughts because of our hardwiring for danger. We predominantly think into the future negative thoughts. It's about 85% of our thoughts tend towards the negative because of this hardwire that we are constantly thinking about danger and preventing danger, but that manifests as negative thoughts. So that is a nice little technique to transform negative thoughts into positive.
Excellent. Yeah. And as far as how to approach the preventative care and health scare screenings, I mean, I think what I'll say is that I've always heard you say, Lee, is that the combination of Western and Eastern is great because we have all this technology and we can understand, you know, genetic stuff, things we couldn't understand before about predisposition. But when you're in preventative mode, Eastern medicine is so much better at it than Western medicine. So I'm kind of curious where you land on that process. Do you just kind of, you know, my assumption is I would probably just show up and do the screenings. And then when preventative care that they're recommending feels invasive or uncomfortable, you know, personally, what I would do is really tune into my intuition about that and double down on the preventative work of Qigong, and perhaps find specific recommendations or go to an acupuncturist who can give you specific recommendations for how to kind of help that genetic potential not manifest. And we understand now through the study of epigenetics and the sort of more recent genetic research, and in particular, this concept of epigenetics, is that all these genetic potentials need to be turned on. And a lot of the time, the things that we do in this preventative way, in this really whole system health and energy body health, helps keep a lot of the negative stuff from being turned on as far as genetic potentials that you may have in your body. So I think that's kind of where my mindset is. I mean, now I'm dealing with this right now. You know, we're discovering things certainly in my family history and genetic potentials. So I'm kind of going through the same process. It's like, yep, okay, I'm prone to that. My dad died of cancer, my grandma died of Alzheimer's, and my mom's dad died of heart disease, and she's got some weird protein and, you know, all this stuff. And it's like, it's good information, but I think there's the link between the sort of Western and Eastern is this principle of epigenetics that's so compelling, in that just because you have these potentials doesn't mean they have to be turned on. And it seems like the Eastern practices are far better at keeping them from being turned on than the relatively invasive Western practices.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, and I was talking and interviewing Bruce Lipton recently. He's the cellular biologist and the expert in epigenetics. And he was saying, you know, it's about 5% of things are ruled by genes. It's very low. 95% is more in alignment with what you're just talking about, epigenetics, meaning that, you know, yeah, we all have things that we're predisposed to, but they get turned on. And he was saying often by stress, chronic stress will turn on these genes, and the receptor sites on your cellular membrane are all very different depending on your circumstance, the way you're thinking, your environment, the activities that you're doing. So you can influence 95% is lifestyle, is thought process, is, you know, diet, and all the things that we do. So be empowered to do what you can. And that empowerment comes from your choices. The choice, even in what we were just talking about, to transform negative thinking or worried thoughts into positive. That's a shift in the mindset. Transform your lifestyle, practice Qigong, eat healthy, exercise. Those things have big influence on prevention. And so this is very exciting science. It's fairly new science, but it really is empowering for us. And you know, I love it because, again, what science is finding is what the ancient masters talk about. Prevention. You are in control. You have you have much more control and agency than we thought. It's not just genes dictating how your life is going to unfold. It's you have agency. So do what you can. What can I do today to strengthen my energy system, to be happy, to be healthy? And that is the best medicine that you can practice. And like you said, Ben, sure, see the doctors, do the screenings, use Western medicine as a complement, but really lean into prevention, because again, 95% is more your lifestyle. So lean into that. You have agency, you have strength and power to control and guide and direct your Qi. That's your life. Your Qi is your life force energy in the way that you want. So take agency and take charge of that, and be the driver, in the Qi car. Be the driver in the car of life, and take yourself to your desired destination.
Driver of the Qi car. That's everyone.
Yeah, we're going to come out with a Qi car.
That's right. I'm just envisioning the Qi shirt with you're the driver of the Qi car, and this if you look at a Monopoly car. I think that's amazing, and so well said. And also well said is what somebody just threw us in the chat. Says, I heard this on a podcast. Eastern medicine keeps you healthy, and Western medicine keeps you from dying.
Yeah, right. Especially, Western medicine's so, fantastic for emergencies, break your arm, car crash, whatever. Those emergency medicine is really high level. You break your arm, don't go see an acupuncturist, go to the doctor to get better and to stay healthy, lean into Chinese medicine. That's what it's been doing for, a few thousand years. Western medicine really hasn't, taken up true healthcare to keep you, if you go to the doctor and say, I want vibrant, vital health, I'm already healthy. What can I do for even more energy? They don't have those answers. So, exercise and nutrition is starting to blossom in the West, and meditation and these ancient practices. And so we're seeing that, but it's not part of the medical system fully yet. It's starting to be embraced, and the research is there, but it's not part of the system.
Right. Yep. Well, here's a less philosophical and more mechanical question that actually is on my list of things to ask you. Sandra is asking, when spinal cord breathing, do we want a bit of hyperextension in the lumbar spine when we open up to the heavens? Yeah. Yes, you do. Call it ducktail. So the tailbone comes out, but not forced. It just unfolds and opens naturally. When you look up and you open, the spine is gonna flex, and then when you come the other way, you're tucking the tailbone under. The idea in that particular version is range of motion, moving the spine in its full range of motion so that nothing gets stagnant. So yes, there is a little bit of a ducktail as you open the chest and look up. Yeah, the other interesting element of it that has been, as far as fine tuning, that's been on my mind is there is a little bit of a ducktail, but then part of the movement, as you say, is to increase, is to get the range of motion fully. And I think what the opening up phase does is really opens up that front of the spine, all those little muscles and tendons on the front of the spine, which are not generally moving very much otherwise. So the other subtlety that I've been thinking about is that to increase that movement in the front of the spine is it make sense to do, you're saying not too much. You don't hyperextend like very much, just a little bit of a ducktail.
Yeah.
But also what I've found is recently is that if I also then kind of lift up a little bit and kind of lengthen the spine, or think just intentionally lengthen the spine while doing that I get a little bit more sensation in the front of the spine as far as stretch and opening. Is that kind of on the right track, or do you really just want to kind of relax into it and not?
Yeah, you're right. Here's the thing. We often don't pay attention to the front of the spine. We often say the back, and we think about the back of the body. So often when I'm teaching, we're just guiding people to pay attention to the front of the spine. That's an interesting area. That is the mindfulness of the movement and being more mindful of what's going on. And so as you're opening here, there's no, let's say like a yoga stretch or a Qigong stretch. It's not really a stretch, so to speak, as a range of motion. As you open here, you're going to open a little bit more than normal. So yes, there's a way in which we're elongating and opening, but it's less of a, let's say, a hamstring stretch or a neck and shoulder stretch. It's more of joint mobility, mobilizing, range of motion. And yeah, there is definitely an element of stretch to that on both directions, but we're really trying to find where's the end of my mobility and how do I stretch into it a little bit more to increase that mobility.
Excellent. Thank you. That was a good question. Very timely. It's interesting. I was just sort of working with this a couple of days ago. I was like, I'm going to ask Lee about that. So,
oh, that's good.
Yeah, worked out well. Here's maybe a quickie. Do you have any advice for people dealing with pre-diabetes?
I mean, yes, absolutely. You're going to want to move your body, exercise, and eat healthy. Now, that's just common sense with that. The other thing in Qigong, what we want to do is strengthen our earth element, strengthen the spleen and your digestive ability. So I would say, you know, some great workouts is our Qigong for Digestion workshop. You're going to find some great exercises to really help the digestion, get your other organs turned on so that your pancreas doesn't have to overwork. 5-element practice would also be good. The 5-element energy flow, the 5-element routines, the 5-element workshops, fantastic. But moving your body and exercise is one of the best, and you know, and really doing a really healthy diet is also very important.
Yep, that all makes sense. Yeah, that Qigong for healthy digestion is the focus on the physical aspect of the earth element, and so it's one of the 5 elements. And certainly, then I would say if you are doing 5-element flows and stuff like that, that you could maybe spend a little more time in the earth element would make a lot of sense.
Awesome.
Oops, I left a couple of these open. Well, we've got some people over in Facebook who've been throwing some questions over the wall at us. And so we have Zach here, who's going to help us by bringing those over.
That we do. A couple of questions coming in the Facebook end of things. One really good one from Leslie. I'm new to Qigong and absolutely love it, but I'm having a hard time staying consistent with my practice. What tips do you have?
Mm-hmm. You're not alone, Leslie. I think, you know, how to stay consistent. Couple of things. Schedule it. Schedule your practice on your calendar. Commit to a short practice. You know, we even have 7-minute practices in our 30-day challenge. You know, just you have to sometimes do a little bit of mental gymnastics, mind work around it. Like, I'm going to schedule tomorrow morning at 9. I'm just going to say, I'm going to do my 7 minutes. I'm going to commit to 7 minutes. If you can do longer, continue with your practice, but at least you've scheduled in and habituated a 7-minute routine. Maybe it's not 7 minutes. Maybe you can commit to 20 minutes. If you're on the subscription, we always have a 20-minute version and an hour version. And so maybe really think about the time in your life that you, in your day that really works for you. The other thing is to really get your head around what are the benefits. If you do your Qigong practice, you're going to be more energized. You're going to have less stress. When you're more energized and less stressed, you're more efficient. You actually get a whole lot more done in your day than if you didn't do your practice. We are all busy with lots of things on our schedules and calendars and lots of commitments. We actually need focused energy and getting into flow state to do our best work in the world, to show up as our best selves. And this is really good reasons in our minds of why to do our Qigong practice. Because when we're stressed, all the research is showing high levels of stress. We lack productivity. We're unhealthy. We're not energized, and our mind is cluttered. And so to really be at our peak and perform in our daily lives, whether it's parenting or going to work, making dinner, when we enjoy our lives most is when we have energy. And so to drop into a high level of energy and the flow state is going to make your day so much more enjoyable, and it's going to make you more efficient. You're going to get a lot done. I know the times I've been in the busiest in my life, I got a lot of work, I have, twins. I opened a healing arts center. I did more Qigong when I got busier so that I had the energy to deal with the challenges of life. Otherwise, when we have low energy, life becomes overwhelming. When you have high energy, you rise to the occasion and move through those challenges with, as they say in Qigong, effortless ease. So there you have it.
Perfect. And then Aggie has a question. Is there a Qigong routine for sleep apnea?
Okay, so for sleep apnea, a couple of things that you want to do. We want to do things that help us sleep and unwind. We're going to also want to do practices that will open our respiratory system. So the recommendation, do that Qigong for Better Breathing workshop. I say the workshop because there's more to it than just the program. And in that workshop, I go through some of those exercises that really help with sleep apnea. I would also say the Qigong for sleep workshop. Those two in combination should really, really help you.
Wonderful. And Pamela's curious, can doing too much healing sounds make someone tired?
Yes, they're designed to make you tired. So do it before going to sleep. That also said, some people are doing healing sounds maybe for some deeper healing. And when you do, my recommendation is to do the sound practice and then do a lying down sort of meditation or even like a 5 or 10 minute nap. Your body will replenish its energy. So you might feel a little tired afterwards, but like a really good night's sleep or really good nap, you wake up and you have a lot more energy. So that's how to use that practice.
Nice. And Jennifer has some questions regarding masks. What are your thoughts on masks? I'm working in the medical field and have to wear one for 8 to 9 hours a day. I feel like masks suppress our ability to expel waste since our lungs expel 70% of the body's waste.
Yeah, there really is something to that. I mean, you might not be able to change it and say, hey, I'm not going to wear a mask to work today. If you can't do that, you work with what you can do. So my recommendation, take as many breaks as you can, go outside, get some fresh air, do some deep breathing, for 2 or 3 minutes outside, maybe every hour or every 2 hours. Do the better breathing practice when you get home and just open up the lungs, do your pressure points. Those are things that we can do. And your body's very adaptable. Your body's very strong at taking on challenges. And so those are the things that I would suggest if you're in a situation where you can't do anything else. Just do what you can by taking those little breaks, stepping outside and doing the breathing practices either before work and after work. I would say maybe a Qigong routine before and after work, even if they're short, would be very, very helpful.
Wonderful. And Pamela's curious, how do you help posture and teach people to stand up tall?
I would say some of our practices like Qigong for a healthy spine would be great for posture. In general, Qigong is great for posture. The iron shirt training is all on, posture alignment, not only posture, but also how posture affects all our organs. So do your practice. Any Qigong is going to help your posture, but specifically, I would say the workshop on Qigong for a healthy spine, the upper back and neck, the low back, the Dalian and the iron shirt are really leaning into postural training.
Yeah, we actually added a posture fix kind of scheduled program to as a bonus to the iron shirt. To the Dalian program. Dalian is a pretty big program, though. It's a big undertaking and fantastic work for opening up the lower back, hips, legs, body as a whole. It's amazing energy work, but also it comes with this Basically like a 30-day program for doing some postural realignment.
Yeah, great.
Nice. And Paula's curious, what's the best move for cervical dystonia?
Okay, so we're talking about the upper back and the neck area. So the posture work that we're talking about, great. With those kinds of issues, we got to be a little careful. So light stretches will be helpful. We want to move the chi through that area, but we don't want to irritate any of the injury or the inflammation. So lightly stretch the area, increase range of motion, and then train these muscles to move without tension. And that's really where we learn what we learn to do in our flows. And so programs like Qigong for upper back and neck can be extremely helpful for retraining. We all hold too much tension in our neck. That creates misalignments in our cervical spine. If we start to release the energy here, or release the tension here, and start to learn how to relax those muscles, it can be very, very helpful. So I'd say like a Qigong for upper back and neck, do all the stretching in the beginning of the program very lightly and focus in on retraining those muscles with the flows that come at the end of the program.
Wonderful. And Corinne's curious, can I use pressure points on kids? My 2-year-old grandchild has difficulty with bowel movements, and she's wondering if you have any recommendations.
Absolutely. Children respond really well to energy work, pressure points. Massage their bellies and have them lie down and just massage the belly with the palm going in the flow of digestion, meaning going down the left side and up the right side. You can use a little oil and just massage, or just with the palm, light little finger circles around the belly, and press the pressure point stomach 36 on the outside of the shin. You could look it up on Google and find that point. Just massage around that, and that's very, very helpful.
Perfect. And Judith is curious, how can I continue practicing Qigong after my eye surgery 2 months ago? I can't jump and it's not good for me to hang forward. What exercises can I do and can also help?
Focus in on the flows. If you're on the subscription, maybe just do the last part of class, just the flowing movements. Those are all very gentle. They circulate energy. They activate the healing in your body. For eyes, do more on the liver. The liver and the wood element is related to the eyes. So do more liver exercises and focus in on flows.
Wonderful. And Uta is curious, should I practice Qigong when I catch a cold or get sick?
Do healing sounds when you catch a cold. You could do light pressure points, stretches. We don't often, when you first catch a cold, do a lot of what we call tonifying, which is flowing movements or cultivating energy. We want to purge more than tonify, meaning we want to get rid of that pathogenic chi. Healing sounds, light stretching, Qigong activations, pressure points are the best to do early onset of catching a cold.
Wonderful. And Kay is curious, is there any dangers of breaking any bones doing Qigong if you have osteoporosis?
I mean, not unless you're doing martial arts style Qigong or breaking bricks. Otherwise, just take your practice really lightly. We have Qigong for bones, and it's a bone breathing class. I would recommend that. It's on the in our healing series, Qigong for bones, and that's a practice where we do exercises to tonify the kidneys. Kidneys are related to the bones, and those kind of practice can be very, very helpful. Otherwise, do everything lightly when you're doing the stretches, or if you're in the subscription and doing some deep stretches or invigorating exercises. I always suggest a modification. Do those modifications, do everything very lightly, and then really practice and focus on your flows.
Makes sense. And Jackie is curious, would the pre-diabetes recommendation you mentioned also work for weight loss or anything else specifically?
It does. It does work with weight loss because we're focusing on metabolism and increasing that metabolic fire. So the Qigong for better digestion, that workshop can be very helpful for weight loss. Qigong in general is great for weight loss because it gets you out of stress When you're out of stress, more energy comes to the digestive system. That's why relaxation mode or parasympathetic, what do they call it? Rest and digest. Stress moves energy away from digestion. And so that's when we have digestive issues and our metabolism actually becomes compromised. And so anything that gets you out of stress is going to be good for digestion, good for weight loss. But specifically, you know, some of the breathing exercises and earth element exercises can be very helpful for weight loss.
Wonderful. And that wraps up all our questions on the Facebook side of things.
Thank you, Facebook Zach.
My
That's much
pleasure.
appreciated. On the weight loss topic, we also have another interesting question that floated through Colleen saying, I have seen a couple articles that state Tai Chi reduces dangerous belly fat slightly more than other exercises. Does this also apply to Qigong?
Absolutely. I mean, often they talk, I mean, Tai Chi and Qigong can be almost synonymous because the principles are very similar. You know, in fact, Tai Chi can be thought of as a particular version of Qigong, a martial version. All the movements in Tai Chi have martial application, and it's done in a whole series and sequence of movements, in essence, a form. But, you know, Qigong is a very accessible way of practicing these principles. And we can zero in, for example, on digestion and not just the Tai Chi movements that are related to martial arts practices and application. So we can say, hey, I really want to take these principles and focus it. My intention is to help create healthy digestion or work on weight loss, and we can focus it and zero it in on that. So that is really good research. And I imagine that these practices would work really well and in an evidence-based circumstance.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I think it is. The challenge always in the evidence-based circumstance is to get people to actually spend their time and resources studying these things that aren't patentable. But I'm not going to go on that rant again like I did last time. So we're going to move on to some additional questions. So, folks, we have just a few minutes left, and we are going to give you the opportunity, if you wish, to come up and ask Lee a question in person directly. At the moment, I'm going to lower all the hands. If you would like to, when we do that, because sometimes people raise their hand and then wander off. If they raised their hand an hour ago, there's no telling if they're there right now. So if you would like to ask Lee a question directly and come on up in person here on the video, please feel free to raise your Zoom hand. You should see a raise hand button down near the Q&A button. So please feel free to do that now, and we'll bring a couple of folks up. I think we'll probably only have time for a couple of folks. And I'm just going to wait a minute and see if anybody who had their hand raised previously. Oh, looks like we do have at least one. So we'll start with Lisa. Very good. Lisa's here. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. Hi. Thank you. I actually have a question based on something that was said earlier, and it might be kind of silly, but you know, in Chinese culture, the year you're born correlates with an animal and an element. So how does that kind of factor into the 5-element Qigong flow? I was just curious about that. And does that correlate with, you know, I'm prone to certain things, or certain moves are better for me because of any of this?
You know, that's a great question. Really great question. I haven't been asked that before. Okay, so
You haven't?
I have not been asked that before.
Huh. I think maybe you, from now on, instead of doing Qigong, we're just going to shut down all the Qigong stuff. And instead we're going to do Chinese astrology.
You know, it's one of the other branches. We talk about the 5 branches. There's actually 8 branches of Chinese medicine, and astrology is one of those extra branches.
And I'm trying to remember, what is your element and sign?
Me, I'm a fire monkey.
Fire monkey, right.
Yeah.
I'm a fire dragon. What are you, Lisa?
I'm a wood tiger.
A wood tiger. Excellent.
The 3 of us go well together.
That's true. All right. Well, we're going to have a party right here, right now.
Yeah. You know, and Lisa, the things about this, these are, again, they're maps that describe the territory. There are different ways of looking at it. There are different ways of describing life in all its many nuances. And life is mysterious. And we as human beings like to put it into explainable maps and concepts so that we have something to work with. But as we know, the map isn't the territory. So even though, you know, Ben's a fire dragon, somebody born really close to Ben's date of birth is going to be a fire dragon as well. They might have a very different personality. And that is explained in the terms of minutes and everything else. The stars influence us, but we have a uniqueness to us as well. And there's always something about us that is unexplainable. The correlation is that the astrology has particular ways, just particular descriptions. You know, monkey, dragon, tiger will have a way in which they describe that particular time when the stars were aligned at that moment of birth, and these are the characteristics. In the same way, the 5 elements are going to take the elements and describe certain characteristics about a person. But those two systems are in the way they use 5 elements in medical Qigong, and medical and Chinese medicine is different than the way they use the animals and the elements in astrology.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Lisa.
I love doing the Qigong classes, by the way. They've been helping me so much, more than anything. So.
Oh, wonderful, Lisa. Thank you.
Fantastic. Very good. Yeah, it's such an interesting way of looking at things, I think. And what I find is that one of the things I find interesting about it is that the 60-year cycle. So there's 12 animals and 5 elements. So there's a 60-year cycle, all told. That's the big cycle. And it just restarted at the beginning of last year with the metal rat. So the rat is the first animal and metal is the first element in the sequence. So we started a brand new 60-year cycle at the beginning of 2020. And then the entire world went into lockdown, I guess, to go gestate whatever they're going to do for the next 60 years. I don't know, but either way, I found that fascinating.
Metal rats are intense.
Apparently. I always wonder, is the metal rat the guitarist in the band, or is it the drummer in the metal band?
That's right. Nice.
It's got to be one or the other. Here comes Sandra. Sandra is perfect. Hi, Sandra.
That was easier this time.
You were quick on the draw.
Lee, I did healing sounds with my 2 Qigong groups, and one lady has said that since she started the healing sound, she's gotten a lump on the inside of her arm just above the elbow. So then she stopped doing her Qigong altogether, and I was like, no, you gotta keep doing it.
Yeah.
So any suggestions? Should she continue with healing sounds? I suggested acupuncture to her, but she wants to stick to Qigong. So
I think here's what happens when you do healing sounds, it's purging. So things are going to come from the depth and go to the surface. So something's trying to release from her body. I would say continue doing it. You might do some skin brushing, like skin scrubs.
Yeah, I mentioned
skin brushing, maybe do a cleanse of some sort. Keep up with that practice because we want that to come out and release. It's powerful, you know. People get these powerful reactions because now instead of stuffing it in and holding it in to our bodies, it starts to release and come out. And we know that detoxification isn't fun. It's a lot more fun to put toxins in. Go have a few drinks. Hey, I feel pretty good. Next morning when you're detoxifying, it's a little scary, like, oh, I don't feel so good, but it's your body actually healing. Right. And so go through, just explain that to her to go through the healing, and she's going to be a lot healthier as she continues to do her practice.
Right.
Yeah.
And then would you suggest both the soft and the vocalized sounds?
Yes.
Both. Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. The moral of the story is don't stop.
Yeah. Don't stop your practice.
No. Well, we have come to the end of our time together. This has been wonderful. As always, I love hearing all the questions. I love hearing all the answers and seeing what everybody's chatting about. We got some water dragons and some wood tigers and some earth rats and all sorts of things out here in the in our chat. So, Mr. Holden, we got just a couple minutes left. How would you feel about giving us some kind of send off?
Yeah, wonderful. Well, we did start with gratitude about the things that are happening in our lives. How about we end with gratitude on things that are coming in our future? Let's put a little attention on the things that we will be grateful for in the near future and use that as a guiding light to steer the course of this wonderful life force energy towards those events and those experiences. So for now, I'm going to say, take a moment to just think about the things in your day today that you're going to be grateful for, the things that you are going to manifest and bring into your reality, into your experiences as they approach, and steer your chi ship towards those experiences. Take a deep breath. And for now, I will say cheers and thanks for joining us. And we will see you in the next tea session or in the next chi session, whichever one those may be.
Easy for
Thanks
you.
all. Seriously.
Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Those of you who got here late, or if somebody asks you how they can find this, it's going to be up on YouTube by tomorrow sometime. And it'll be up there on our YouTube channel. So please do feel free to jump on and watch it again or watch the rest of it. And those of you who are in class, we'll see you tomorrow. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next event somewhere, sometime. Bye all.
Bye all.